Ladies and gentlemen of America, I cannot tell you how honored I am to have this man on this podcast today. I have been following him since 2015. We had started the Honor Bowl, got into the whole educating students and coaches and communities about the needs of our military veterans and what heroes look like when it comes to patriotism and honor and sacrifice. And then this news story came up that I'm going to play of Joe Kennedy on Fox News, and I want everybody to hear this, and then we'll go right into talking to Joe. Joe, thank you so much. Here we go.
A federal appeals court ruling it is unconstitutional for a high school football coach to pray on the field alone or with players after the games. Coach Joe Kennedy from Washington State lost his job back in 2015. School officials had warned him to stop praying, but he continued to take a knee and pray after games. The judges said he was acting as a public employee, not a private citizen, while he was praying. Therefore, his free speech rights were not protected. But Kennedy says he's not going down without a fight in court.
We need to fight for our freedoms. We need to fight for the things that are right in society and for America. I couldn't look myself in the mirror if I just gave up because this got tough, if this was an inconvenience. I wanted to be that example for him, and it ultimately cost me everything.
Every time I hear that, I get goosebumps, Joe, and we're going to go into this. We're going to talk a little bit about this. But before we get there, I want to hear a little bit more about you, Joe, and your history. I want to learn about your Marine Corps service. I want America to know more about Joe Kennedy. So if we could start there, tell us about you, your Marine Corps service, and how you became a football coach.
All right. Well, I started out growing up in Bremerton, Washington, and, it's a Navy town, so of course I had to join the Marine Corps. And I was one of those kids that needed a lot of discipline. I needed to find out who I was, what I was made of, and what I was capable of. So I joined the Marine Corps and just wanted to get out of this town. I want to serve my country. And, when that oath of enlistment came up, the support and defend the Constitution in the United States, that actually meant something to me, every time I talk about it, I could just feel the hair on my head just stand up because, that's what it's all about is I belong to something more than myself. So I spent 20 years in the Marine Corps. I wish I could say it was all good, but, you have your highs and lows of everything, and ended up making a career of it because I wanted to be, a good leader for my Marines. I didn't want to be one of those ones that that gave the kids hard time when they're serving. I wanted my Marines to be, good Marines. So I stayed in the 20 years, served in combat, and ended up retiring after 20.
Wow. And how did you go from the Marine Corps into being a teacher and a football coach? What happened there?
Well, I was never actually a teacher. I was out. My wife worked for the school district, and she gave me a football shirt from Bremerton because I graduated from Bremerton High School. And one of the athletic directors, he saw me out running one day doing my physical training, and he stopped me and said, "Hey, did you ever play football?" I said, "No. I spent 20 years in the Marines instead." And he says, "Well, you know a lot about leadership and team building." I said, "Yes, sir, I do." He said, "That's what we're looking for. Would you be interested in applying for a job at Bremerton High School?" And from there, it just kind of took off and ended up being a coach for 8 years for Bremerton High.
Oh, my goodness gracious. So now you're a football coach. You're a football coach and obviously a man of faith. And tell us what happens after that led to the episode in 2015.
Well, before I decided to be a coach, I was a brand new baby Christian, coming out of the Marine Corps. I didn't have any faith. And then I found the Lord and my wife at the same time. And those kind of went hand in hand. So after I was offered the job, I saw this movie called Facing the Giants, and the coach in that, he said after every game, he's going to give his thanks to the Lord, win or lose, because all the glory goes to him. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. So I kind of ripped off the movie a little bit, but that's what I did. And I said I was going to take a knee on the 50 after every single football game, win or lose. And that's what I did. I did that for 8 years, and it started out with just myself, a quiet me by myself, and then some of the kids came out, and it just kind of went on from there.
Okay. So, that I'm a football coach, and I know for many games, either pre-games or post-games, there were many times that, we would huddle up, we would knee down and grab hands, and even with the other team, and say a prayer. And it was always about honor, brotherhood, about sportsmanship. I mean, I've got your prayer here. Lord, I just want to lift up all these warriors that came out here to compete today. I don't care what their beliefs are. We do believe in this sport. We believe in football. We believe in a team and competition. It's all about the game in your name. Buddy, I can't tell you how many times I've said that prayer. and to hear that of what happened with you in 2015, it gave me goosebumps. I remember you and I connected on Facebook, and I just wanted to support you. And I to this day with this podcast and going up to it, how we support you. You know about our work with the Marines, with the Honor Bowl and the Honor Group. And to hear what happened and everything after that, I don't want to go too much into it because I know that you're still in litigation about it. But if there's anything you could say that about that and moving forward, tell us where you're at.
Yeah, well, some things are definitely worth fighting for. And I think the Constitution, as a Christian, it didn't really affect me all that much of, I could basically pray anywhere. It was, serving my country and, defending the Constitution where they said that you cannot pray in public. That's where I had the rub as a Marine, not as a Christian. So that was the part that really, got to me. And I said, this is worth fighting for. The Constitution, even though I'm not in uniform, this is worth fighting for. And I knew that it was going to cause, problems for my family. It was going to cause problems for my football team and my community. All these things, but it really led up to, what are you going to do that is right? And the right thing to do is stand up for your beliefs and stand up for the Constitution and, what has made this, country great. So, you guys supporting me and, everybody across the country standing up for rights is the most important thing. And, just a shout out from anybody, that's the blessing,
Oh, my God. Hey, Rick, will you give him a 3-5 get some?
Oh, man. 3-5. 3-5. Get some. 3-5. Get some. 3-5. Get some.
Joe, that deserved a get some. Anyways, buddy, we have a great relationship with the 3rd Battalion, 5th Marines. Every time we do the Honor Bowl down in San Diego, we take the teams to meet the guys and go to the memorials and learn from the Marines. And so, what you just said is just beautiful. So now you're working with an outfit by the name of First Liberty out of Texas, and they're a law firm, and their mission statement is, or on the bottom of their email line, it says, restoring religious liberty for all Americans. And today we are honored to have Lathan Watts, who's the Director of Legal Communications for First Liberty. And Lathan, I got to tell you, buddy, it's great having you on this podcast too. And I know we only got you by mobile device, but I got to tell you, when I heard that, you were, just making sure everything was cool with Joe, I wanted to invite you to be on this show because I got to tell you, bud, I love what you're doing too. So maybe you could tell us a little bit about First Liberty, Lathan, and what you guys do.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to be with you. And as far as the podcast go, I've got a coach will probably tell you I've got a face made for radio, so this is just fine with me. Just calling in. So First Liberty Institute is the largest nonprofit organization in the country that exclusively practices religious liberty litigation. So that's the only area of law that we work in. We exclusively deal with the First Amendment right of to freely exercise your faith.
Mm-hmm.
We defend Americans of all faiths. We can take a case anywhere in the country. We are headquartered in Dallas, but we have a network of volunteer attorneys around the country that will volunteer to work with us, and that allows us to take a case, as I said, anywhere in the country. So when we heard about what was going on with Coach Kennedy, we immediately knew that this was something that we wanted to be involved with and help him if he was interested in our help. And so we sent some attorneys to the airport pretty quickly and got up there and got engaged. And so we've been fighting this alongside him now for multiple years, and we're continuing the fight, and we are hopeful that we have now a path to victory at the Supreme Court.
So can you give us a little information on that, as much as you could give, Lathan and Joe?
Certainly.
Give us, where are you at right now when it comes to this fight?
So what happened with the case? We started there in Washington. We appealed after a decision there at the local level. We appealed that to the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled against us in a very broad and frankly shocking opinion. Their opinion basically said if you are a public employee like Coach Kennedy and you do anything religious and anyone can see you do it, then you are violating the Establishment Clause of the First Amendment. Now, of course, our argument was you need to keep reading, because the very next clause is the Free Exercise Clause of the First Amendment, and that's what he was doing. He was not in any way speaking on behalf of Bremerton School District. He was exercising his personal right of free exercise of religion by a simple 15 to 30 second silent prayer at the 50-yard line. In no way establishes any religion as the official religion of Bremerton ISD. But that's basically what the Ninth Circuit said, that a neutral or reasonable observer, somebody up in the crowd, would look down and see Coach Kennedy because he's wearing a Bremerton ISD jacket or shirt and he's taking a knee, and somehow come to the conclusion that a religion has been established in violation of the Constitution. So we appealed that ruling from the Ninth Circuit to the United States Supreme Court. Now, when it comes to the Supreme Court, they get literally thousands of appeals every year, and they hear roughly 1% of them. So the odds, just numerically, are against the court taking your case.
Yeah.
But we check every week once a case has been listed. Every week, the Supreme Court, while they're in session, they meet once a week and they discuss a certain number of cases that have been appealed to them. And so that's the conference list. So once we saw Coach Kennedy's case on the conference list, we knew, well, they're at least going to talk about it. And then you wait to see, after they've conferenced, if that case shows up on the cert granted list or the cert denied list. So it got relisted several times, which means they talked about it multiple times. When they do those conferences, it is only the 9 justices in the room. So nobody else knows what is going on in there. And then we saw Coach Kennedy's case show up on the cert denied list. They weren't going to take it. And so we were initially, very disappointed. But the Supreme Court did something very, very rare in Coach's case. So, like I said, they hear thousands of appeals. They accept about 1% of them. So usually that cert denied list is just a long list of cases that they say, no, we're not taking this. But with Coach's case, they attached this little opinion with the denial. And 4 justices signed on to it. It was authored by Justice Alito. It was joined by Justice Thomas, Gorsuch, and Kavanaugh. So right away, you have something that is very unique. It's very rare that they issue any sort of statement about a case that they've denied to hear. The next thing that's very rare, that's important, is you have 4 justices who signed on to this opinion. And the reason that's significant is it takes 4 votes to take a case at the Supreme Court. So already there's sort of buzz about this, and then you start reading this little statement that they attached to it, and I'm paraphrasing it now, but basically what they said was, we're not going to take this case right now, because there was a factual issue all the way down at the trial court level that we feel like wasn't really addressed sufficiently. And if we took it now, we would likely get bogged down in a very fact-specific ruling, and that's not really what you want the Supreme Court to do. You want them to answer the really big questions, right? The First Amendment questions. So that just that alone would have been a very significant opinion.
Absolutely.
But then they went on to say, and by the way, we are very troubled by the Ninth Circuit's ruling on this case. We find they basically said it's kind of hard for us to believe they really meant what they said. And then at the end of the opinion, they dropped in this little statement at the end where they said, and we noticed that this case was brought to us as a free speech case. And clearly, the petitioner has a free exercise claim. But maybe you didn't bring the free exercise claim to us because there's other decisions by this court that basically make it difficult to bring free exercise claims. But we have not yet been asked to review those decisions. Now, for people who are kind of court watchers and people who read these opinions, that is as blatant as it gets. That is Justice Alito doing everything but including an eye wink emoji in there saying, hey, maybe you should ask us to review this whole decision too. So it was a remarkable little statement that came out with this denial, and it's basically given us a game plan or a roadmap to victory at the Supreme Court inevitably, and it's one that we intend to follow. And we're optimistic that we will win not only for Coach Kennedy but for people of all faiths in any public employment all over the country.
That is huge. Joe, how does this make you feel? I mean, when you hear Lathan so eloquently talk about what you've been going through and what the Supreme Court is doing, how are you feeling about? How are you doing, my friend, as a Marine, as a coach, as a man, as a family man? How are you doing?
I mean, the Marine in me is, I'm always up for a fight. So that part of me, I can appreciate. The other parts that it doesn't make any sense, it's frustrating. It's not like you watch, like CSI and there's this thing that happens and you're in court the next day. This has gone on for 5 football seasons. And as a coach, 5 football seasons is an eternity, especially at high school. Yeah. These are kids that, you get as a freshman and you have them for 4 years. So I missed 5 years worth of kids. That part kills me. I really hate that part, and what it does for my family. The stress that it puts on my wife is beyond anything that anybody could comprehend. I can't even imagine what she goes through. So I don't like that aspect of it. If it was just me, I'm always up for a fight. Us Marines, that's what we live for. But, not at the expense of other people. And if it wasn't for people like, First Liberty, there's no way. I mean, 5 years of this stuff. I could never afford this. You can imagine what court costs would be. But these guys do it out of donations. They do this out of, it's all pro bono. So I don't pay a dime out of my pocket for this because I would have been bankrupt in the first hour. I can't afford that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm just a retired Marine kind of guy. So it's tough, but I will continue the battle and fight the good fight.
One of the things that I had this conversation with a coach yesterday down in LA, and, as a coach, 99.8% of the people that we coach are never going to see another football field after high school. Right. It's the high school experience. And then after that, they go on to life and into college and work and all that other type of stuff. But what we are as coaches, us good coaches, are the ones that teach them about how to be good fathers, how to be good employees at work, how to be good college students, how to be good husbands, that type of thing. Those are the good coaches out there that are out there doing that type of stuff. And I could just feel your heart when you talk about 5 years gone of not being able to touch these athletes and work with them and groom them and help them grow to be better men. I know that hurts, Joe.
That's it.
I get it. I get it. So Lathan, I love what you do, buddy, and I'm so glad that you took the time to be on this. How can we help you? How can America help you? Tell us what we could do to help you.
Well, I thank you for asking. As Coach mentioned, we will never bill Coach Kennedy for any of these legal services, and the volunteer attorneys that work with us, they volunteer to work pro bono as well. So First Liberty is a 501c3. We're a nonprofit. We're supported by donors around the country, and that allows us to never charge the clients. So if people want to stay informed about Coach's case and our other cases all around the country, I would encourage them to go to firstliberty.org. There's a lot of information there, not just about our cases, but information for you, so you can know what your rights are. Mm-hmm. You can't defend your rights if you don't know what they are. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to be a lawyer. You don't have to be a constitutional scholar. Coach is a coach. He's a former Marine, but he knew enough to know that something was wrong. Mm-hmm. And he knew enough to know that this was worth fighting for. And so we have resources for people where they can learn a little bit more about what their rights are. That's also at our website. If you're a text person, you can text the word Liberty to 474747. You'll get a text back with some prompts to get on our email list. We'll send you updates about Coach's case and others. We don't spam you to death. It's just an update, I think once a week, on what's going on in the area of religious liberty. So there's a couple of ways, that people can help us if they feel, compelled to donate to us. Of course, that always helps us be able to take on more clients and do more litigation. And just like we said with Coach's case, a win for Coach, if this goes back to the Supreme Court and we get this decision that we want, will not just be a vindication for him. It will protect people all over the country. Anybody that it's in, if they address that Ninth Circuit opinion, they're going to protect the rights of people of faith, of all faiths, and honestly, and people of no faith, because you still have a right to live according to your own conscience, and that's what Coach was trying to do and was prevented from doing. So certainly, people can donate at our website, but at least check us out, follow us. You can get updates on Coach's case and others, and some resources for you. And if something happens, in your area or to you personally, hopefully, I pray you never need our services, but if you do, right there at the top of the website, there's a tab to get legal help. You can fill it out. We'll get in contact with you. It's not going to cost you anything if we take your case. And this is all we do. As I said, this is the only area of law that we practice in, and we specialize in it. And if I don't say so myself, we're pretty good at it. So give us a call if you need help.
One of the things, and thank you, Lathan, and we will put all that information on the video of this podcast. One of the things that we do with the Honor Bowl is we do this thing called Moto Talks, and we go into the locker rooms before the games, and the games are always big games, right? Nobody wants to lose their game in the Honor Bowl, and it's the first game of the season, and it's a big matchup. And what we do is we usually bring in a decorated Marine or a service member. It doesn't matter what branch of service are. They're usually decorated and come with the uniform and all the medals on. And then we bring in a wounded gentleman that may have lost their legs or lost an arm, and we bring in a chaplain. And the reason why we do this is because we want to inspire the athletes before they get out on that field about service and commitment and brotherhood and sacrifice. And for those 15 minutes that we're in that locker room, they get a story from a decorated military person and a guy that may have lost his legs that tells them about brotherhood and sacrifice. And then the last thing we do is we have them all knee up. And I don't care if they're from a public school, from a Christian school, a private school, it doesn't matter. They knee up, the coaches all get together, we grab hands, and then that chaplain says a prayer that is very much like what Coach Kennedy said at the end of his game in 2015. And I can't even imagine what it would be like if someone were to say, Coach, you can't do that. I can't even imagine what that would do to our program, because that's what it's about. It's about, service and commitment and freedom. And people like Joe Kennedy and the 20 years of service that he gave. This is about our rights as Americans and our liberties. And Lathan, Joe, buddy, I cannot thank you guys enough. Joe, I can't thank you enough for your heart, for your passion, for your courage to take on this fight and to lock arms with Lathan and Liberty. It truly is an honor to have you on this show, buddy. And if you have any final words you want to say before I let you go ahead and say them, but I just can't thank you enough.
Well, I just want to thank everybody and anybody that hears this. I'm just like you. I'm an average guy. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Instagram. I'm not one of those guys that, is out there, in Hollywood or anything like that. Average American high school football guy. I mean, you can't get any more ordinary than this. So, anybody that reaches out and just says hi, a good wish, a prayer, anything like that, encouragement, God bless all of you. And I appreciate everything you guys do. You keep doing what you're doing, brother.
3-5. Get up! 3-5. Get up! 3-5. Get up!
Well, hey, Joe, I would love to invite you down to the Honor Bowl this year. Let's talk more about that offline, but I think it would be amazing to have you in our locker rooms, our pregame locker rooms, and have you be a part of those Moto Talks. I think it would be extremely inspirational, and we'll talk more about that, but if you can make it, I'd love to have you down, my friend.
I'm in, brother. I'm all in.
Hey, Lathan, thank you, buddy. We are going to definitely put your information on this video broadcast. And thank you for what you do, Lathan. Keep it up, my buddy. And, get out
Thank you
there
very much.
and keep it going, okay? And we're going to support you as much as I can. Joe, thank you, buddy. God bless you. We'll be in touch. This is another episode of Honor Radio, and we will see you next week. God bless, and have a fantastic day. Get some.